Hello, my name is Luca, and I'd like to bring you some light. Social media is a household term now, and much of the world is connected to it in one form or another. But is it causing mass psychogenic illness? Ever more engaging platforms like TikTok and a metaverse that is being built fundamentally change the way that we connect with each other, the way that we think, and the way we communicate. The statistics would tend to indicate that we are less happy, more anxious, and more suicidal ever since we've started connecting this way instead of more conventionally. So how do we break free of that if that is indeed the case? And do we even want to? Let's get it! In order to have a basis for the thesis today, let's talk about the definition of mass psychogenic illness. As it says here on Wikipedia, not that they're always right about everything, but this seems pretty accurate here. It involves the spread of illness symptoms through a population where there is no infectious agent responsible for contagion. It is the rapid spread of illness signs and symptoms affecting members of a cohesive group, originating from a nervous system disturbance involving excitation, loss, or alteration of function, whereby physical complaints that are exhibited unconsciously have no corresponding organic etiology. Essentially, what it's saying is that, it's coming from the nervous system. Yeah. And that's basically your brain. I mean, that's the largest part of your nervous system anyways. Of course, it runs throughout your whole body, but I think most people would agree that the center of the nervous system is the brain. Anyways, let's look at some mass hysteria cases, which is a synonym for mass psychogenic illness. To support the idea that your nervous system indeed can cause you illness and you can spread that illness to other people by getting them to believe the same thing, I pulled up some examples of mass hysteria throughout history. Some notable ones were the dancing plague of 1518, where between 50 and 400 people started dancing, and I think a couple dozen people died of dancing because they believed that they needed to dance to get some sort of evil spirit out. And they're basically just, they all started believing it, and they even built them a stage because they were trying to help them get their dancing out so that they could get these evil spirits gone. There was a laughter epidemic in 1962 where this village, this school of girls, basically they all started laughing, and then they couldn't stop laughing. Some of them laughed for days and days, up to 16 days. People were just laughing uncontrollably. It started with 3 girls and it spread throughout the school, affecting 95 of 159 pupils. And you can't tell me that somebody wanted to laugh uncontrollably for 16 days just to kind of continue a prank. Like, this is genuinely people losing their mind because they just spread it to each other. And there was another one in 1962 where this dressmaking department in an American textile factory, they believed that there was this cockroach basically around there biting people and making them sick. And 62 people got this sickness, and even though they researched it and there was, maybe it was 1 or 2 people got bit by the bug, but, certainly 62 people didn't. And some of them were hospitalized and everything just because they believed it so much, so fervently. It's just more examples of how your mind really has the power to almost create illness within you. And to go along with this, I wanted to play a short video as well. This video is from after school, and of course I'm going to link it, but just some cool illustrations with a couple interesting quotes. So check it out.
The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to deify error if error seduce them. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is always their victim. According to the psychologist Carl Jung, the greatest threat to civilization lies not with the forces of nature, nor with any physical disease, but with our inability to deal with the forces of our own psyche. We are our own worst enemies, or as the Latin proverb puts it, man is a wolf to man. In Civilization in Transition, Jung states that this proverb is a sad yet eternal truism, and our wolf like tendencies come most prominently into play at those times of history when mental illness becomes the norm rather than the exception in a society, a situation which Jung termed a psychic epidemic. Indeed, it is becoming ever more obvious, he writes, that it is not famine, not earthquakes, not microbes, not cancer, but man himself, who is man's greatest danger to man, for the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against psychic epidemics, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes.
I thought that was a tremendously interesting little segment there. That just seems to fit what's going on right now. Just giving some statistics on mental illnesses. This is from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Basically, 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year. 1 in 20 U.S. adults experience serious mental illness each year. 1 in 6 U.S. youth aged 16 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14 and 75% by age 24. And suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst people aged 10 to 34. So that's really bad statistics. I mean, basically 1 in 5 people are having mental illnesses, and about 1 in 20 or even 1 in 19 people are having serious mental illnesses. And this is a trend on the rise. If you look at the chart, it's got a nice uptrending level of support, if you will. And people that have depression have a 40% higher risk of developing cardiovascular and metabolic diseases. So you experience these mental illnesses, and it really breaks down your body quicker than if you're able to maintain a good state of mind and find a way to beat these mental illnesses that are becoming so prevalent. And in addition, since we've had the sickness that's been controlling the way that our world functions in many ways, we've seen a large rise in the short term of these statistics. I mean, just looking at symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorder during past 7 days, 18 to 29 is it's gone from 49% to 57%, and every group is up, just every group. And the statistics are a little bit flawed because the tendency is that people become a little less depressed during the summer and the warmer months, and then they get more depressed as we get closer to the holidays and the winter period. However, when you look at the charts, it still is an uptrend regardless. So it really is bad data for our mental health, and as we focus on it more and more, we realize that it's more and more of an issue, right? Since we are seeing the increase over time in mental illness, we need to show the correlation between that and the increase of social media usage. So this is just showing where 2012 in the age group of 16 to 64, the average user was using about an hour and a half of social media on a daily basis. Now in 2020, we were using about almost 2.5 hours of social media on a daily basis in that age group. And I would venture to say that is likely increasing now that TikTok is so prevalent, and will continue to increase as things like the metaverse, which will engage more of your senses, is going to cause more and more people to want to engage in these platforms that bring you an altered version of socialization. I know I haven't spent a lot of time covering the causation, merely showing a little bit of correlation between social media usage and the mental illnesses, but I think it's almost commonly accepted at this point that social media does indeed make us less happy, especially when there is excessive usage of it. And I believe that's kind of been covered ad nauseum, but a lot of people don't necessarily talk about what it takes to start breaking free of that cycle. And so I wanted to play a short quote from Alan Watts here that kind of may get the wheels turning on how we change our frame of mind in order to make us more resilient against the kind of manipulation that social media has on our nervous system, if you will.
Because from childhood up, we have had to conform to a certain social game. And if you're going to conform to this game, you can make mistakes or not make mistakes. And so this thing has gone into us all the time. You must do the right thing. There's certain conduct appropriate here, there's certain conduct appropriate there. And that sticks in us and gives us a double self all our lives long, because we never grow up. Now, I only say, if that game begins to bore you, and it begins to trouble you and give you ulcers and all kinds of things, then you raise the problem of getting out of it. And therefore you start to become interested in things like Zen.
I know the arguments and the points that I'm making today are kind of disjointed, but it is difficult to put together this concept of a mass psychogenic illness that is indeed happening. And people are falling to suicide like we're at war in these age groups, okay? And if it gets worse, it's going to be literally like we're fighting for our lives against suicide. And I think that's important to recognize, to kind of put in perspective. And we need to start a movement amongst ourselves, because I don't see social media usage decreasing. I think it's going to keep increasing, and I think it is going to continue to cause a rise in suicide and mental illness. I guess the question is, as individuals in this system, how do we increase our resolve, and how do we keep our minds in a good state to where we're able to think for ourselves and be unique beings of light in this system that tries to suppress that light and copy it, manipulate it, turn it into something that's not good. Anyways, we're going to talk more about this in the future. I love you all. Have a good day.